Humanity has always imagined how judgment would arrive, with thunder, with fire, with voices raised in wrath. They expected spectacle, they expected fury, they expected to be addressed as equals or as enemies. What they didn't expect was familiarity. In the shadow of silent orbits and unanswered summons, the world has gathered to meet whatever has been watching it, not knowing whether it will be condemned, forgiven, or simply corrected. This is the moment when silence takes shape, when fire doesn't burn, when power steps forward wearing a human face. This is Chapter 5 of And Man Was a Vengeful Creation. The visitor emerges. The thornbush in Central Park sat still, unassuming, before the gathered leaders of the world. Then, without warning, it ignited. The flames did not erupt in chaos, did not crackle or burn. They moved like liquid light, wrapping the bush in an eerie, blue-white glow. The fire should have scorched the air, should have sent waves of heat rolling across the stage, but it didn't. Instead, it shimmered, dancing to a rhythm no human ear could hear. Colin Michaels caught his breath. The fire did not consume, the thorns remained untouched, defying the very nature of flame. Shadows stretched across the stage, jagged and erratic, as though cast by something outside of time. "What is this?" he whispered to the French premier beside him. His voice felt small and meaningless. The flames surged higher. The air thickened, pressing against lungs, against skin. The fire pulsed once, twice, then collapsed inwards, folding into itself, shrinking into a single dazzling ember. And then it began. The ember did not fade. It stretched, folding in on itself, reshaping and twisting into something real. A figure stepped forward. The last remnants of the fire did not vanish, but rather they were absorbed into him, drawn into the very fibres of his being. He was undeniably human in shape, perhaps deliberately so. Tall, broad-shouldered, his presence did not demand attention. It commanded it. His unruly mop of blonde curls framed a weathered face, one that carried both kindness and something far older, far deeper. But his eyes. For a moment, Michaels felt as though the air had been stolen from his lungs. The visitor's gaze did not just land on him, it passed through him, peeling back every layer, exposing things even Michaels had long since buried. Not judgmental, not cruel, just knowing. A pit settled in his stomach, as if something within him had been measured and found wanting. He forced himself to look away. The visitor's clothing was as unremarkable as his presence was extraordinary. A faded t-shirt emblazoned with a worn peace symbol, its edges frayed with time. Lived-in jeans, torn at the knees. Barefoot, he stepped lightly onto the grass. And the earth welcomed him. The silence stretched, vacant and waiting, but not empty. Then, at last, he spoke. "Hi, everyone." His voice was warm, unhurried, unfocused, yet it carried. Across the hushed park, across the millions watching through their screens, it reached not just ears, but something deeper. Michaels's fingers dug into the armrest of his chair. His mind scrambled for logic, for rules, for precedent and strategy, some framework to explain what he was seeing. a mop-haired man in a piece shirt and jeans, emerging from a fire that had no heat. And this was not how power introduced itself. The President of the United States cleared his throat, gripping the lectern as though it were an anchor in shifting reality. He had faced wars, he'd faced crisis, but never this. He squared his shoulders, adjusted his tie, and began. On behalf of planet Earth. He stopped. Not by choice. The words had vanished. His mouth moved, but no sound emerged. His throat constricted, air pressing against nothing. Silence wrapped around his voice, swallowing it whole. His brow furrowed in confusion. He cleared his throat again. Nothing. His grip on the lectern turned white-knuckled. The visitor's calm blue gaze swept across the stage. "What?" he asked, his voice soft but carrying the weight of something immeasurably old. "What has become of my world?" A hush fell. Not absence, but presence. He let the question settle, let the air grow heavier beneath it. His eyes moved deliberately from leader to leader, resting on each one in turn. Not accusing, not condemning, just seeing. In his expression there was no wrath, only disappointment. Beyond the barricades the crowd did not stir. The weight of the words settled across them too, pressing into the bones of a planet that had forgotten how to listen. Then, suddenly, effortlessly, he grinned, easy, carefree, as if none of this was strange at all. "Got a room for a few days?" The words dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. Michaels blinked. Had he misheard? A strangled noise, half chuckle, half sob, slipped from someone in the front row. Another followed, nervous, disbelieving. Then, from deeper in the crowd, a small ripple of laughter, uncertain at first, then growing. Hesitant relief wrapped in absurdity. The sound spread, some people clutching at their faces, unsure whether to weep or whether to laugh. Beyond the barricades, someone in the crowd fell to their knees, hands clasped in prayer. Others only stared, transfixed, their faces caught between awe and terror. The visitor's expression softened. He turned his gaze briefly toward the gathered masses, his eyes momentarily far away, as though seeing more than just the people before him. "We've got much to discuss," he said at last, his voice steady and inviting. Then he smiled. "But first, let's get comfortable." The moment held. The cameras rolled. The world did not exhale. And the silence that followed was not empty. It was merely waiting. In the end, power did not arrive as a weapon. It didn't raise its voice. It didn't need to. It came barefoot, wearing the language of peace, asking not who humanity was, but what it had done with what it was given. The world laughed, not because it understood, but because laughter was the only release left to it. Judgment has not fallen yet, but neither has absolution. The visitor is here, the questions have been asked, and comfort, it seems, will be temporary. Thank you for listening to And Man Was a Vengeful Creation. If you're enjoying this story, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with others who enjoy thoughtful science fiction and quiet cosmic horror. Every small action helps this series find its way to new ears. The silence is not over. The conversation has only just begun. and whatever has been watching us has finally stepped into the room.